In this video I want to talk about 3 different things: my previous week of training, my training for next week and start of my meet prep, as well as my tentative attempts for the meet that I have coming up on June 4th. So this past week went extremely well. My goal was to do heavy stuff 2 different times during the week. So I started out with heavy bench, heavy squats on Monday, as well as I believe some rows, and then on Tuesday I did some heavy deadlifts as well as some weightlifting movements. Took a day off on Wednesday, then did the heavy double mock meet thing that I did on Thursday, and everything went extremely well. I was nervous a little bit going into Thursday because I knew I had done a lot earlier that week and I didn't know how much that would carry over fatigue wise and affect me on those heavy lifts. But it didn't really seem to affect me at all, and even when I did the heavy doubles on Thursday, I didn't take a lot of time in between sets or in between exercises. I tried to move pretty quickly through those in order to make it even more difficult for me to do, which seemingly didn't affect me. Maybe it helped me because I stayed warm throughout. But I couldn't really have moved slow because I would have just ran out of time in the gym anyway, but I wanted to do that since I had schoolwork to do the next morning, so I needed to get home and go to bed anyway. So it kind of worked on 2 different levels with that. But with the heavy doubles that I had on Thursday, you can see them all in isolation in my last video that I posted, since I just posted each of those, the bench, squat, and deadlift videos with those. But the 435 that I did was really good, I think. It felt really good, and it moved really well. And when I did it, I thought about a 3rd one, but I didn't want to do another one at the detriment of my bench or deadlift, since the goal was a heavy double, and that's what I did. And I was ecstatic that I did that for a heavy double. So I did the 435 for heavy double, and I moved on to bench. Bench was the one I reached the most for, and probably a bit too much. The 2nd rep that I did, I might have got a little help, although you can see his fingers are not really grabbing it, they're just kind of there. But my butt came off as well, so the 2nd rep didn't count, but I was still able to grind through it, which I'm happy with. And the 1st rep was a touch and go, but it moved really well. I think if it was a little bit less, like 300 or especially 295, I would have been able to do that. I would have been able to do that 2nd rep relatively easily, or at least a lot better than I would have done that rep that I actually did with it. But I'm still happy with bench. I'm still happy with how bench is moving. I feel confident to be able to do 315 with a pause in a meet, perfectly fine. With that. Ideally, I'd get closer to 319 or 322 or 25, however it messes up in kilos. I'll talk about that a little bit with my exact attempts, but 315, is 1 of 3 plates. That's pretty exciting. I didn't think I'd have that for years, but that all went well. Then I moved on to deadlifts. My goal was to do 585 for 2. I did 585 for 2, and they both moved, I thought, really well with it. The 2nd rep felt like a bit of a grind, but looking back at the video, it didn't really ever get stuck. It just moved slower than the 1st one. The 1st rep moved much faster than I thought it was going to. I thought it would be very heavy. I jumped from 535 to 585, and I was nervous about how that would work, and that's even above where I want my first attempt to be in the meet, but I was very happy with that. I didn't do a hook grip rep. It's because I don't trust the bar. When I did the 575 a couple weeks ago, the bar was just kind of slipping in my grip. It's because the bar just doesn't really have much knurling. I'm not really worried about that so much. Once I get a bar with a good knurling, I should be good with that, especially with all the adrenaline in the meet. The hook grip, I've never had any issues with holding. I've held 611 at my first meet, and I only failed because my back rounded, not because my grip failed. So I'm not worried about that, but I do want to, in the meet prep, do some grip work to really solidify that and to quell any doubts that I may have about my grip with that. But moving on to that, with the meet prep that I'll be starting most likely on Tuesday, I'll be going in probably 2 of the next 3 days to do some bodybuilding work, really light stuff to just work on hypertrophy, just because I'm bored and I'll want to go to the gym anyway. But after that, I'll be starting Derek Mortenson's prep program, which is 4 weeks long, and then there's a deload before the meet, the week before the meet, where I'll probably still go in and do some really light stuff just to keep in the groove of the movements, but there will be nothing really that heavy at all before that. Basically, it's like a linear progression. It has some weightlifting components in it. I'll add in some drill work with weightlifting, with movements with the clean and jerk and snatch. With the 3 position movements, I'll be doing that a lot with really light weights, probably once a week. I'm not straining myself and giving my hip the most time to recover, and just allowing myself to focus on that. And it's not going to be to a detriment to my weightlifting, I don't think, since my form can always get better, and working with light forcing myself to work with lighter weights is only going to be a benefit to the transition in the summer, where I'm focusing a lot more on the weightlifting movement. So I think the closest thing that I'll be going heavy with that is a weightlifting movement is a push press. Well, I'll be doing that sometimes, but I don't know how much I'll be doing it, since the program is kind of mixed between that and bench, and I'd rather do a little bit more bench, but I still really like the push press because I think it's really helped my bench press. Same with overhead press and push press, all of that stuff, since the shoulders have always been a relative weakness for me. So I'll be starting that next week, and you'll be seeing 3 different workouts from that. I'll be talking about that as I progress through that, and I have no doubt, just looking at it and knowing Derek and how he's progressed, that it will no doubt get me prepared for the meet, and it should get me feeling fresh and all good to go for that. But for the meet, which is June 4th, which I think is 5 weeks next week away in total, 40 some. I know you want to guess on the days. I have it written down somewhere, but that's not really relevant right now. So ideally, and I have for each of my attempts, I have a conservative attempt, a aggressive attempt, or really just the next step up with it. For squats, my conservative is 205 kilograms, or 452-ish pounds, or 207.5, 457.5 pounds. Ideally, I would my last warm-up would be around 535 that I did for that double, then jump up to one of those 2 weights. Ideally be that 457, because that would really set me up to make better jumps or higher jumps with my other squats. And the next one would be 215 for my second attempt. 215, 474 pounds, 217.5 kilograms, 479 pounds. That 479 is the big number that I want to be able to hit. Anything more than that is wonderful, but if I can get that 479, that'll really set me up to be able to do more conservative weights on my other ones without having to push too much. But for my third attempt with that, I have actually 3 different potential attempts depending on how that 479 goes, since that would be 24 pounds over the most I've ever done, so you never know if that's going to be a big grind or not. If it's a really big grind, or if I don't get it, I will if I don't get it, I'll just try the weight again, because I'd like to get that. But if it's a huge grind, I may just skip my third attempt, because I don't want to kill myself on squats, because I'd rather, if I get that 479, I'm ecstatic with, I mean, that 24-pound PR after PRing with after a 20-pound PR, so like a 44-pound PR in like a month, so I'd be ecstatic with that. But for a third attempt, assuming those first 2 go well, would be 225.5, which is 490.5 pounds. That would be the most conservative. The middle ground, 225, which is 496 pounds, and then 227.5, which is 501.5, which would be just insane if I'm all hyped up at the meet. 479 was no big deal at all. Jump up to that 500, hit that milestone, but like I said, that 479 is the goal. Anything more than that would be icing on the cake. And if I attempt one of those third attempts and it's, you know, a huge grind, I'm not going to kill myself with those, because I want to get that 1422 total. That's the goal for the meet. I can get 500 pounds some other day. I'm not worried about one lift. I want to have a good overall meet with that. So that's all the squat stuff. Like I said, 479, that's the number I have in mind with it. And this is all, I went to the kilogram charts, that's why they're kind of weird pounds with them. So opener for bench would be either 137.5, which is 303.1 pounds, or 140 kilograms, which is 308.6 pounds. I think I could do the 308.6 to open. I don't think that would be too much of an issue based on how that 305 looked, and just based on the fact that I've done 305 for a pause before, 3 more pounds, or 3.5 more pounds. I don't think is that radical of a jump with it, and that again would set me up for better second and a potential third attempt with that. So my second attempt would be 142.5 kilograms, which would be 314.2 pounds, or 145 kilograms, which would be, excuse me, 319.7. Again, that's that higher of the second attempts is the goal, that 319.7, and that's 4.7 pounds over my best, that 315. With a good prep, hopefully that's a possibility, and if that all moves well, the bench is one I'll probably do 3 attempts, almost for sure, since that doesn't really tax me that much, and it won't really affect me too much on deadlifts with that, since even if it's a big grind, it's just upper body stuff. And nobody cares about upper body stuff with that. But third attempt, assuming everything goes fine with those first 2, would be 147 kilograms and which is 325.5 pounds, or 150 kilograms, which would be 330.7 pounds. So that 330 probably out of the out of the question, but that 325.2 would be I'd be extremely happy with, because that would be a 10-pound PR over my lifetime, assuming obviously 319, so it would be a PR from that if I were able to get that. 330 would only be a possibility if I went through my whole prep and like just weights are just flying up. I'm not worried about getting that. I'd rather be a little more conservative with that and hit that 325 and just help my total a little bit than trying to be a little overly aggressive with that, because to be redundant with that, the 1422 is the goal for the meet. And so for my deadlift attempts, my first one's going to be pretty conservative, relatively speaking. Either 260 kilograms, which is 573.2 pounds, or 262.5 kilograms, which is 578.7. I'd probably be 578. I'm pretty confident that I'd be able to do that pretty easily. And then I would jump up to either 272.5 kilograms, which is 600.8 pounds, or 275 kilograms, 606.3 pounds. Most likely, I'd be aggressive with those first two, the 578 to 606. And then for my third attempt, either 282.5 kilograms, which is 622.8, or 285 kilograms, which is 628.3. So right around there. If I can get that third attempt, the deadlift's the only one I want to be able to hit the 3 attempts for. That 622.8 would be very ideal. But again, it could be something in between that 606 and that 622.8. This is where I could make a big jump or a small jump based on how I do in my other ones. If for some reason I hit that 500-pound squat, 330 bench, that will set me up very well to be very conservative on the deadlifts with that, where hopefully I'll be able to get that total that I want with a second attempt, and then just make a big jump and go for something with my third attempt. So the deadlift's the one that's kind of mostly in the air with it, but I'm tentatively having those attempts with it, which based on my second attempts on my squat and bench, I should be able to get that total with that 622.8 deadlift, which I don't think is out of the realm of possibility, especially seeing how my 585 went, and with all the adrenaline, it'll be my second round of caffeine at least for that. So hopefully those attempts stay there, or I can get more aggressive with those based on how the prep is. I don't envision them changing that terribly much unless it's on meet day and something is either feeling amazing or feeling like complete and garbage. I'm not gonna be heartbroken if I don't hit that total. I can just wait next year and do that 1422 again. It'll save me time in the fall because I won't have to worry about trying to sign up for a meet and go to Florida and all of that, although that would be extremely fun to do that. But the goal is, in short, just to make PRs in my lifts, to make progress, to have everything move well, and to stay healthy with it. I'm not gonna go above and beyond what I need to do in order to just get some arbitrary number that I'll eventually hit anyway with more training. I want to be able to get that total, or at least get as close to it as I can. If I get over 1400 and I miss that 1422, I'll be ecstatic, because that's over 100 pounds from my previous meet. All these numbers I'm talking about, the worst, if I hit my lowest attempt for each one, would be a 1328 total, which is like what, 50 pounds over my first meet, and the absolute best would be 1460 and a half pounds or something, which would be like 200, almost 200 pounds more than my first meet. So that seems like a wide range, but I'm assuming I'll hit all my first and most of my second attempts at the very least with that. And with an actual like focused prep without any sort of major weight cut, which at the moment I'm sitting like 205, 206, so I'm gonna really make sure that I'm underweight obviously for the meet, so I'm under that 205 mark, but at most I would have to cut a couple pounds with that. So hopefully that all goes well. I'll be starting the meet prep next week. I'll keep you updated about how all of that shenanigans goes, but that 1422, if I haven't said that enough, is the goal, because that will qualify me for nationals that are in the fall in Florida, which if I'm able to hit that 1422 in this meet, and then able to get a 440 Wilks, which I believe at my current body weight would be about a 1530 total, don't quote me on that, but whatever that would make at my body weight of 205, a 440 Wilks, that would be the goal, to have that in the fall in order to be able to qualify, potentially qualify for the Arnold Classic next year with that. But if this meet doesn't work out, then you just push everything back a year and keep training hard for everything, because given another year, these numbers shouldn't be too big of an issue for me to do, especially the 1422, assuming, because I'm already almost pretty much there, potentially there for this first meet, and it's really getting to that 15:30 total, or whatever that 440 Wilks would be, since the qualifying standards are going to stay the same for 2 years with that. But that's really about it that I have for this video. Hopefully I won't be cutting too much out of this video in between during it, actually probably hardly at all, but I tried to record this about 13 times and so in order to make it pretty concise and consistent without too much incoherent rambling throughout, so hopefully it sounded better in that regard. Let me know what you think about that. All my attempts, if you have any questions about that sort of stuff or my training or anything like that, feel free to leave that down below, and I hope all of your training is going well, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching, and peace out.
Oh, the throw would have been a hernia.